My name is Ayo Adesanya. I'm part of the Road to Self-Actualization. I'm interviewing Craig Yates. He works for Network Rail as I do. He's a signaller. And Craig contacted me because he read my article, which I did with Network Rail, for stammering awareness. And we're going to talk about that and why he wants to share his story about his stammering journey. So, why are you coming out the closet now?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's coming out of the closet. But many people who know me know that I've stuttered for many of my years. Although it's not a thing you like to advertise. But the reason we're doing this interview is you put an article up on Connect for Network Rail, and I was kind of moved with the work you're doing. I thought that's fantastic. And me personally, I've stuttered for much of my life, and I've developed a technique which has worked really well for me. And so I contacted you just to let you know this is what I do. If it can be of any assistance, then all the best with it, basically.
Yeah, that's great.
I think in your response was, would I be prepared to do an interview and write an article? Which how can I refuse? It's like it's a banker, isn't it? So here we are.
The structure of this interview is going to be, we're going to talk about the background of Craig and his stammer, how long he's been stammering, what he's done, how it's impacted him growing up. And then the second section, we're going to talk about the techniques and how Craig has overcome his stammer. So the first question, do you remember the first time you stammered or stuttered?
I don't remember exactly when I was stammering. My earliest recollections was going to speech therapy rather than of like real nervous situations of stammering in front of people. I haven't got any recollections really. It's very, very vague, whether I've shut it out mentally or whatnot. But it was in early primary school when I was going to speech therapy, and it was from then onwards that I've kind of got more and more memories. And from the early teens onwards through to me mid to late 30s, I've got a lifetime of stammering and struggling in certain situations, not always. I'm not one of these stammerers who stammers every time I try and speak, but certain situations I can be terrible. I'm just a nervous wreck and I can't talk. I get stuck on words, can't pronounce words. And so like my earliest memories, I'd have to say probably about 9 or 10 years old. However, I was stammering before that because my parents were taking me to speech therapy, but I can't remember it personally.
Does stammering run in your family?
Stuttering run in my family. I believe that my nan on my mother's side used to struggle occasionally. But again, it's kind of vague memories, more what people have told me than actual vivid recollections of it. But I believe she did. Other than that, no.
Literally, apart from them, there's no one else you know of who stammers?
No, just me and Nan on the mother's side that I'm aware of.
Okay. How did you initially cope with your stuttering? What tricks or avoidance strategies did you use to manage your stuttering growing up?
Well, I don't believe I did cope. You kind of it just happens and then it becomes part of your life. But then over time, as you grow older, you develop behavioural patterns and it says here, avoidance strategies. That's a huge part of it. Once you become self-aware and you're aware of the situations which compound your speech impediment, you tend to avoid them. But for me, there was a few situations which I'd be really, really nervous and I was prone to stuttering. That was talking in front of groups of people, introducing myself to strangers, quite often on phones. Not always on the phone, but quite often. One thing that happened to me quite a few years ago now, when I was in the early 20s, I was trying to give an address, like, I don't know if I found a pizza or a taxi or what, and 337 Chester Road was my address, and I couldn't get the word 7 out. I just could not pronounce the word 7. And from then on, I could not say the word 7 because it was that mental note, you can't say it. And your brain tells you can't say these words, even though you can. You're fully capable, but your brain, with stammering, or for me anyway, it's my mind telling me that I can't. And so then going on to avoidance strategies, if anything had to be wrong, don't try and get someone else to do it. You phone that pizza, you phone that taxi, you don't phone your parents. And you try and avoid them situations. Something I've mentioned in the article, when I did have to do things like that, I'd walk into a room where no one could hear me, because you don't want people to see just how bad you can stutter on occasion. Even though you're aware of it, you still try and hide it from other people, as best you can. Other avoidance things, sometimes you could be out with a group of friends, and you might want to tell a joke, and you'll refrain from it, even though you think it's a funny joke, and you really want to tell it. You're scared of being able to deliver it without stammering, so you stay silent. And then, I mean, the question seems to be aimed at an early age, how did you initially cope? And I don't think I did. It's just one of them things, but then like the sort of coping mechanisms, the avoidance strategies have developed over time. It's become like a young adult, and then as an adult, you develop all sorts of tricks. There's something else I've mentioned in the article as well, is that you develop quite a good internal thesaurus, because as I was saying, like when you get hung up on a word, quite often it will stick in your mind, like you struggled, and then you try and avoid it. And if you're in a conversation and you think of a word you're going to say, you think, oh no. What your brain does, it will pluck another word out that is similar or is suitable to be used for that. And that was a strategy that I noticed that I used quite well. Thankfully, I was brought up being read lots of books. I used to read dictionaries, so I had quite a good knowledge of the language to use for that. So that helped. Put in for jobs where I've been confident of succeeding, where you've got to do a lot of talking to other people. I had a lot even though I've got quite good qualifications, I had quite a few years in the automotive industry where I'd just be left to run and maintain a machine by myself, didn't have to talk to many people a day. Not ideal. It's quite physical, which as a young man I used to enjoy. But I was capable of much more. But because of my own speech impediment, my stuttering and my confidence, I'd never ever tried to reach any sort of potential, because I'd already mentally given up any kind of aspiration or hope or dream of being able to speak fluently all the time when I need to, under pressure in certain situations, introduce myself to strangers, introduce myself over the phone, talking in front of groups of people, or even just sometimes on a one-on-one basis. If you're uncomfortable with a person, you find that you get nervous and you stammer. Over time, like your self-esteem goes down, your confidence goes down, and you kind of behave in a way which sort of masks your speech impediment as much as possible, and also live your life in the most comfortable way possible without actually addressing the issue. And that went on for quite many years, probably from way through to my late 30s, possibly even early 40s.
So I was going to ask the next question. Do you think your stammering has affected your life choices? Your options?
Yeah.
Of course it has.
I probably spoke a bit too much at length on that last question. My life choices have been greatly affected by it. As I've just said, not applying for jobs, not just in applying for jobs, but your general life aspirations in general get reduced because you don't ever see yourself as being successful. You always see yourself as being restricted and unable to achieve a whole raft of things which ordinarily you should and could. And so your life aspirations, not just in work, but your life in general, reduce. Since I contacted yourself, I've done a lot of reflection prior to this interview, and it's actually made me think about a lot of things which I haven't thought about for many, many years and have maybe forgotten. And it's made me realise just how negatively, in an incremental way, how your behavioural patterns develop because of this stuttering self-awareness and then the avoidance strategies you take. How negative it's impacted on my life, and how subconsciously and consciously it will control the way I live my life, which was to the detriment of myself and others. Growing up, it affected me. I was quite fortunate to move around a lot, so introducing yourself everywhere you went was saying your own name, Yates. That used to be impossible. I could not say that to anyone. Hi, my name's Craig. It'd be on my could not get it out. Very, very frustrated. And the mind was self-aware with stuttering. Even if you're not nervous or can't ask them to speak, instead of thinking, right, I'm going to introduce myself, the first thought is, oh no, I'm going to stutter. And that is the mental prison that stammerers go through. I believe, I did myself. It's not just a thought process which causes it. Most of the time, not always, there are other situations which can cause it, but for me personally, the majority of the time, it's been a mental psychosomatic reaction. Being nervous, first thought is, I'm nervous about talking, I'm going to stutter, and then you try and talk, and you do stutter, but you also go through a physical reaction in the process. It's not entirely mental. You get very tense. The tongue and your esophagus, when I think about it, when you're trying to say a word, it's actually really tense rather than relaxed. And sometimes, if you're nervous, you tend to talk a bit faster, so you really start going really quick, trying to get everything you want out of the way, and then you run out of breath, and then there are physical reactions to it as well.
So, what treatments or therapies have you been involved in, if any? Growing up?
As I said earlier in the interview, my parents took me to speech therapy. I was living in London at the time, Southgate, and I was going to speech therapy quite regular. And it's kind of strange because I don't have much recollection of stuttering badly at the time. Obviously, I must have. My parents had taken me to speech therapy, but I just don't have much memory of it. But I did go to speech therapy, and it kind of had much effect because from then onwards, for the rest of my childhood years, I have got vivid recollections of stuttering and being a nervous wreck for the majority of the time when I have to talk. So I don't think therapy has helped me, but it was at a very early age. I haven't tried any as an adult. No. The only thing I've done as an adult in recent years is develop certain technique, and also my focus of my life has changed a little bit as well.
So what specifically do you do now? This is the juicy stuff. What techniques are you using right now which is controlling or which has helped you overcome your stammer?
Well, at this point in time, I'm not using any technique. I'm quite comfortable and relaxed, and I'm not nervous. However, if I was nervous, or if I got stuck on a word or whatever, the technique involved, it's about focus. And the way to explain it is, a couple of years ago, this was a point in my life where I've always limited myself because of confidence and self-esteem, and 100% certain I'm going to be stuttering, so I'm not capable of this, I'm not capable of that, and I've limited myself. But I've come to a point in my life where there's quite a few people very important to me, and I didn't want to limit myself on their behalf, so I've decided, I made the decision, I'm not going to limit myself anymore. And the technique specifically when I get nervous is the people who I'm doing it for, I put them in the palm of my hand. It's a physical action. I put them in the palm of my hand, imagine them there, I close it tight, and I'm thinking about them. I'm not thinking about my nervousness, I'm not thinking about when I stutter. That's already happened if I'm nervous. I mean, as a sigler, someone go by a train, God forbid, or it could be a blue strike. There's a whole host of scenarios which you have to be prepared for, and that's critical communication. What do you say? What instructions you give? What safety precautions you put in place? What phone calls you need to make to control to emergency services, to all the signallers, etc. And there's a whole host of focus on communications. It's very, very critical and important to the job. And there are quite a few occasions where I've been nervous, the phone will ring, or the GSMR will go to the train driver, and that's when you do get nervous. Well, bloody hell, what's this? It could be absolutely anything. So you might start going through scenarios, what if it's this, what if it's that. But the technique I've used, I managed to do it. Was I nervous? Hell yes. I was shitting bricks, French. But using the technique I've just described got me through it. And it wasn't that I was 100% fluent. There was probably a couple of times where I was a little bit nervous and a little bit jittery in my voice comms. But overall, the vast majority of it, I was fine. And I didn't have any issues conveying information I had to convey. I'm fully capable of doing this job. I don't know, 5 years ago, at any point before then, I'd have said, no way. I wouldn't have even dreamt of doing this job. It would have been impossible mentally, psychologically, where I was then. It was impossible for me because my stutter dictated my life, and nothing I found could overcome it. But the technique I've just described worked brilliantly, and I've done it. I feel like whole finger shots from me.
Wow.
It's not just taking the mental focus away from stuttering because I'm focused on something else entirely. That's a primary trigger though. It's tricking your mind into focusing on something else entirely, which has worked for me. But it has a physical reaction in that tenseness that your body's getting ready to stutter, not being able to speak clearly and fluently. The whole build-up that the body goes through in reaction to the psychosomatic condition that you go through, that releases. As soon as your focus is off it, the physiological reaction disappears. So the process isn't just psychosomatical, it's very physical as well. And when you relax, like I'm relaxed now, you generally talk quite fluently.
So would you say you've come to terms with your stammering? Right now, you've accepted it, you've come to terms, you've got a technique, it works, and you're happy?
I wouldn't say I've come to terms with it. It's like something I've put in the article I've written, like I have to do this anonymously. And that's because deep down, like I've said before, we're our own worst critic. Like you feel ashamed, embarrassed, because there's no perfectly good reason why we can't talk fluently. We've got the muscle to do it. We've got all the nervous system in place, but something mentally causes a physical reaction that prevents it. And it's like going back to it's the self-act ball, isn't it? No one's she's very internally focused and quite embarrassed and ashamed of the fact that you stutter. It's something you want to hide and not advertise, and something that you try and put to the back of your mind. Like if you've ever had like a situation where you stammered badly, like the first thing, as soon as you're out of it, is relief. It's like, thank fuck I'm out of that. And so like you try not to focus on it. Unfortunately, the brain, when you need to talk, does focus on it, which is what the problem is. It's all about focus. So I wouldn't say I've overcome it because my initial reaction with you was, yeah, I'll do it with you, but edit out me. I don't want people knowing. Yeah. Because it's embarrassing. It's not something people like to admit to or talk about. It's kind of a taboo thing. Other people I've met who have stuttered, and they know I stutter. We've never talked about it. We've never sat down and said, we just don't do it. It's it's a very, very personal thing. And the only reason I'm doing this, it's not that I'm comfortable doing it. It kind of conflicts with so much of the way my mental condition has developed over the years, coping with it and avoiding it, pushing it to the back. And but if the technique I've developed which works for me, well, I wouldn't say developed, just a technique that I just happened to try by chance when I was nervous. I'm like, come on, you can do this. And I was thinking of them like that. I'm like, come on, you can do this, babe. And it's worked.
Wow.
I didn't think one day, right, I'm going to try this technique. It was just like me encouraging myself to, come on, this ain't about you, okay?
Yeah.
I think I'm doing it for these. And it's worked.
Yeah.
And so the reason I'm doing this is in case anyone else who sees this, who has suffered or is suffering with speech impediments, be it temporary or chronic, if you can develop your own technique along a similar vein or even the same technique, then I'll be quite selfish not to share it.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you think stammering still holds you back now? Even now, does it hold you back in any way at all?
No. I've held me back, like which I've touched upon in life choices, and life aspirations. Now I'm confident, and it's not that I don't go through mental processes that I used to go through like when I stuttered. But because of this technique that I've found works, I'm confident of approaching situations I used to avoid. Like if the missus wants to phone to a career, I won't go in the bathroom. I can try and hide it. I'll just phone it in front of them. In front of people, I'm taking phone calls. All the situations that I used to hate and fear and try and avoid, I no longer am dictated by them fears anymore. Some of the fears are still prevalent. It's not that like I'm this brand new, super confident, like it's never going to affect me again. Like I'll probably be a stammer and a stutterer till the day I die. I've got a technique which seems to work to circumvent the mental process which occurs. One thing that I will add regards stuttering, when I was young, man, I was a very, very, very fast thinker, very, very fast mind. And so like the thought process was just like that. So I wouldn't have to be contemplating about having to talk to be nervous. I could be nervous at flicking the switch because my thought processes were so fast. Sometimes someone could be talking and it's going to come round to your turn to give your opinion. And like you can develop a nervousness. But when you're young, as I say, because the thought processes are that quick, you don't need much time to get nervous. It can be instantaneous. As I've got older, my mind isn't as quick anymore. I'm generally more relaxed than what I used to be. So that has helped my speech in general. Like from my late 30s onwards, I've been a better communicator than beforehand, which is kind of built a little bit of confidence, but always the latent underlying fears that have limited my aspirations, self-belief and confidence. They still remain, but my confidence has lifted a little from my late 30s, or maybe not in the late 30s, probably sort of about 40 onwards. My mind doesn't rate anymore. I don't think 20 things at the same time, which helps because the mental process which used to make me stutter really bad isn't as virulent in my mind. My mind's not as fast, and so it's kind of taken the edge off of that. As I've got older, as I say, like my focus right now in this point in life is for people who are quite dear to me, and that's where my focus is. My own hang-up, trying to talk clearly and speak fluently, doesn't take centre place in my mind. It doesn't govern my behaviour. It doesn't govern my thoughts, which is a good thing. But it doesn't mean I don't get nervous and I don't go through the process. But it's not an all-devouring consuming my mental state at all times, like it used to be.
Yeah, that's something a lot of us are trying to aspire to not let the stammering fill our mind too much and cloud other things which are more important. And that's a journey I'm on, and that's a journey a lot of people I know who stammer are on as well.
To younger people watching it, I mean, I don't know if my journey is similar to other people, so it's hard to provide advice, but if I was to give some advice,
yeah,
it wouldn't be to like just go back to all your fears and crack them. I think it can be counterproductive because you're not guaranteed to overcome it. It's like when I was young, I'd put myself in situations thinking I could deal with it, and then it just knocked your confidence. You take one step forward, two steps back. In my article, I mentioned some of that I went through when I was working at a higher education college.
yeah.
I turned down a teaching role, even though I was qualified. I turned it down, so I was just petrified and didn't have confidence or the belief. But I did end up conversing one-on-one with students in the workshop. Sometimes because the actual tutors there weren't always perfect in what they was conveying. And I was like, look, there's this method as well, which you can try this. Just trying to be helpful. And I found that I used to try, sometimes when you get more complex things or students learn something for the first time, you have to break things down very clearly for them, so your communication has to be quite good. And I weren't focused in a nervous way at hard and be stuck. I had a lot of focus on what I was trying to teach. And I think, again, what I've stressed before, it's all about focus. But over time, talking in the workshop on a one-on-one basis, I built up relationships, and I weren't really that nervous. I was quite comfortable with people over time, and to a degree where I even took class by myself, like more than once. And a few years prior, I'd never done it, but I hadn't overcome stuff. I was just in a situation where I built up rapport with people, talking to them, giving them instruction, to be confident to be able to go and do it, classroom setting. And that built up me confidence and belief, although I still stuttered since then. I stuttered in other situations. Introductions for ages is a huge one. That was something I used to be terrible at. Could never introduce myself without stuttering. Always been a nervous wreck. And I could only do that classroom setting, having developed relationships over time, over a period of months, on a one-on-one basis in the workshop, to which I was then comfortable. If you go and talk in front of a lot of people who you know quite well and you develop relationships with and you're comfortable around, you probably can do it. But me now, I've actually done that at Stuttering school, speaking in front of people, and now I introduce myself on the phone all the time to complete strangers. And using the phone was something I used to hate the phone.
Yeah, me too.
Can't get that phone away from me. Now I'm confident, and it's not that I'm confident. I'm never going to stutter. I'm not going to be nervous. I'm not confident at all in that regard. As I say, by the latent mental processes, they're still there. They'll be with me till I die. But the technique I've developed, which I realise it's all about focus. If you take that focus away from you when the point of nervousness, and focus on something else entirely, which in my case was those that I'm trying to raise my aspirations for, the physiological thing just drops, all of the tenseness disappears, and I'm confident that this technique, because I've used it several times, it's not like I'm not nervous anymore. There'll be situations, quite a few situations that I've personally gone through where I've been a nervous wreck, but I've used this technique and it's worked. Speaking in front of people, introducing myself, speaking over the phone. A few years ago, I used to hate it. I'd have avoided it like the plague. I'd have never done it. So my advice to younger people would be don't try and develop it as a gradual thing. Build your confidence gradually. Develop your own techniques of focusing. Because if you're focusing on stuttering, and you go through the process, you'll clamp up, you won't breathe right, your muscles will constrict, your tongue will constrict, and you won't be fluent. So develop it gradually, build up your confidence, and then when you feel that you're a bit more confident, then throw yourself into the harder situations, talking at length in front of people, introductions to groups of strangers. Very, very hard to do, I found, when I was young. Some are probably the worst situations for me. I do believe it's primarily focused, as I say, I can't emphasise that enough. It's about focus. Yeah, you have to trick your mind when you're nervous in focusing on something else. And if your mind can focus entirely on something else, it leaves no room for the stuttering psychosomatic process to establish in your thought. Quite often it will already be established for me when I'm nervous, and I'm thinking, oh, you're going to stutter. And I think I'm doing this for them. And I focus totally on that. And it works. I've been in this role, and I've overcome my fears, and I've overcome speech impediment to a sufficient degree to be able to do a job like this. But I now realise I can transfer this to anything. Nothing's going to hold me back anymore. My behavioural situational avoidance, I wouldn't be doing this. Video is, as me myself, Craig Yates, rather than as an anonymous person, is because everything that's held me back up until the last couple of years, I'm determined he's not going to hold me back anymore. And I'm confident in techniques I've stumbled upon, not developed, it's the absolute fluke. Fluke that's just happened, has worked, and I'm confident it will always work, no matter the situation.
That's great. Well, on that note, Craig, it's been lovely having you on the RTSA Road to Self-Actualization YouTube channel. Hope to speak to you again more often. Hopefully we do another interview in a couple months' time, just to see how things are going.
Yeah. If anyone who's watching it who wants to discuss it further, you can contact me by email. It's craig.yates@networkrail.co.uk.
That's great.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, and all the best with the work you do.
All the best.